Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the first Water Cooler Live of 2024. It's great to have you all. So excited for tonight's show. It's going to be a good one. I got a lot of information to go over. For some of you, you'll be really enthralled, and for others, you'll probably be bored to tears. I hope either way you enjoy interacting with our community here on the Water Cooler Live for January 2024. This, of course, was recorded on Saturday night, January 6th, with a 7:01 p.m. start time. Sorry, ladies. I know I was late by a minute, but there you go. Hey, if you want to help us grow our audience, though, would help tremendously if you would click that like button and then share it to your timeline so we can get some other folks watching. I'd appreciate it if you did that. But if you didn't, that's okay. That's okay, too. If you have no idea who I am, my name is John Lacroix. I'm the owner and race director of the Human Potential Running Series. And you can find out all about our series on our website, www.humanpotentialrunning.com. We have 13 in-person events that span the entire calendar year. Our next one is coming up in less than 2 weeks now. We'll be down in El Paso, Texas for the 2024 Franklin Mountains Trail Runs. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that here in a minute. But for now, again, I just want to welcome everybody to the water cooler tonight. Feel free to interact with one another in the comments section here on Facebook. Feel free to interact with me. I'd love it if you asked questions along the way, provided any input. It would be wonderful. Either way, the water cooler is a show for you, our community, an opportunity to hang out virtually outside of a race. So that's what we're doing. And let's get to it. How about it? I wouldn't say that any of the news I'm about to share is breaking by any means, but it needs to be shared nonetheless. So the first thing is the Silverheels trail runs. We've had to adjust our dates for 2024. Something that I've never done before. I've never opened registration for something and then shifted the dates after we opened registration. But I had to do that for this year's Silverheels trail runs, and I'm going to tell you why. So the original date that this event was scheduled for was Saturday and Sunday, July 13th and 14th, 2024, and we had to move it up a day. So now it is July 12th and 13th. That means that the 100-mile and 100K will now start on Friday, July 12th. Still, both distances starting at 4 a.m. on Friday, July the 12th. And then the 10-mile, 18-mile, 60K, and 50-mile will all take place on Saturday, July 13th. Again, that 50-mile starts at midnight, so that's 12 a.m. Saturday morning. Friday night into Saturday morning. That 50-miler will still start at midnight on Saturday, July 13th. I think the 60K is 4 a.m., and the 10-mile and 18-mile, they got to be something like 6 or 8 in the morning. It's been a bit since I looked. But we had to shift the dates. Why did we have to shift the dates? So as we've announced and we've talked about, I have heavily edited this event. It used to just be a 100-mile, 50-mile, and 55K. So we moved it out of the town of Fairplay, and now the 100-mile and 100K start on Kenosha Pass. And then the other distances all start and finish in Como at the Como Roundhouse. And the 100-mile and the 100K will finish at the Como Roundhouse. But through the permitting process of, we're utilizing a pretty good stretch of the Colorado Trail, and we're also going to be using a section of the Continental Divide Trail and the White River National Forest Dillon Ranger District, which is on the Breckenridge side of the Continental Divide is actually one of the busier ranger districts for the United States Forest Service in the entire country. And so as visitation has increased primarily on weekends on trails like the CT and the CDT, and then of course usage is up considerably on the weekend over in the Dillon Ranger District, it was requested that we have our event on a Friday, which is a weekday, to mitigate our effects on other trail users, and also to not just just overcrowd the trail on a weekend when it's already crowded. So this is a permit consideration. Basically, we were not going to get the permits for our brand new route if we did not make this shift. And so for me, it was either we're going to say to hell with it and not get our new route as designed, which I am incredibly excited about. It is a truly stellar route. It changes the entire fabric of this event. It's too good to pass up. And so for me, the decision to move the race up a day to have it on Friday was an easy one. And I hate to break this to everybody, but in my State of Our Sport address, I'll probably hit on this here in a couple of weeks as I finish up my writing that. You're going to see a lot more of this 100-mile races starting on Fridays. And I know a lot of people ask that question, why does it start on a Friday? Again, a lot of times we don't get a choice. The land managers tell us what day we can play and which days we cannot. If you're in Utah, obviously, they start on Fridays so they can be done on Saturday and nobody's there on Sunday because it's the Sabbath. So there's other considerations at play for other 100-mile races around the country. For us, this is a permitting thing. So for me, it was this whole redesign that we just did. If we don't move the date up a day, we're not going to get the permits for the new route. And that would mean we're not starting on Kenosha Pass, and we would not be going over Georgia Pass twice. We wouldn't be going over French Pass. Actually, I have no idea what we would be doing. It would be some amalgamation of what we've historically done. And I know a lot of folks would just drop out and I'd be refunding a lot of money. So, at any rate, I've already emailed all of the runners who registered prior to this change and informed them of it. I provided them with a number of options. They could receive a full refund. They could defer 100% of their entry fee to any other race on our calendar. They could receive partial credits, full credits, deferrals, like everything was in play. And it actually didn't affect too many runners. So we're good to go. I just wanted to let everybody know again that the 100-mile and 100K, it's going to start on Friday, July 12th. And then the other distances will now be on Saturday instead of Sunday. The good news is that now our annual trail work day on this weekend will be on Sunday, the 14th. So, and I'll talk about that in a second too. But there you go. There's the first bit of news. Silverheels had a date change. Sorry. Trust me, it's for a good reason. Next up on our calendar, though, is the Franklin Mountain Trail Runs coming up on January 19th, 20th, and 21st. Registration's still open. At this time, we have passed our T-shirt and awards deadline. Again, I'm going to have plenty of awards for everybody. Can't guarantee a T-shirt at this point. But we do have the annual King and Queen of the Mountain on Friday, January 19th. We're going to have our 50-mile, 55K, and 30K on Saturday, January 20th. And then on Sunday, the 21st, we'll finish up the weekend with our 5K, 10K, and half marathon, all at Franklin Mountain State Park, just outside of El Paso, Texas. We'd love to have you join us. Please do sign up. We got Swiggles coming down to volunteer again. Emily's going to be there, trying to figure out if we're flying Miguel down to help us out. So we should have a good, I know Danuta's coming over from Arizona to volunteer. So we got a pretty good local Colorado crew coming down this year. And then, of course, it's an amazing community down there. Team RWB, Borderlands Mountain Bike Group, they're all coming out to volunteer and participate as well. Really super excited to have them. So check it out. We'd love to have you for the Franklins. And then on the heels of the Franklin Mountains trail runs, hello, Ashley. On the heels of Franklin Mountains, we're right back here in Colorado Springs on the weekend of February 17th and 18th for the Stories Trail Runs. Again, on Saturday, February 17th, we're going to host our annual 30-hour and 15-hour. And then on Sunday, the 18th, we will have the 6-hour, 10K, and half marathon. If you're new to these types of timed events, when I say 30-hour, 15-hour, or 6-hour, the goal is to run as many miles as you can or want within the timeline. So if you sign up for the 15-hour, your goal is to run as many miles as you can or want within 15 hours. So let's say you make it 10 hours and you're like, I'm done. That doesn't make you a DNF at all. In fact, your final result will be however many miles that you ran in 10 hours. That's it. So come on out. Check it out. We'd love to have you. Checking out registration numbers for this one. We're way ahead of previous years. And when I say way ahead, I mean way ahead. I'll even tell you guys. This day last year, at this moment, we had 81 registrants. Right now for 2024, we're looking at 161. So we are at double where we normally are for stories. I don't know how much mud this year. I'm guessing that we're going to get into this. I'm excited for stories too, Ashley. You're going to love it. I think we're going to start getting into a more active weather pattern, which is typical for El Nino winters around here. February and March are usually pretty snowy. So I'm going to suspect that this year will be snowy and cold, which we prefer, right? Because we could pack that snow down and make a sidewalk around that place and not have to worry about the mud. So, hey, check out stories. Again, the 10K is like the red loop and green loop, and you're done. And the half marathon is the blue loop and the purple loop. And those are not the park's colored loops. They're our colored loops. So, yeah, if it can't get confusing enough. Of course, we're still going to have that Purple People Eater Award for the person that faces the most adversity out there. Come check it out. We'd love to have you. Hey, in our online store, over this way, you can still buy these shirts. No one cares about your Strava. We also have we're not going to the moon. We're not going to war. It's just running. You can still grab one of those in our online store. They're super comfy. And over the next couple of weeks, you're probably going to start seeing a few more fun designs popping up in there for the year. Grab a shirt if you want. It'd be great to have you wearing some of these fun shirts around. Yes, they are tongue-in-cheek. It's okay to laugh a little. It's just running. Take a shot, Allie. It's just running. And of course, we're talking about our calendar. We just had an exceptional Reg Fest last month. We actually set a new record for most registrations handled in a single month in HPRS history. A record that we set in October. Like, we broke that record in October. We broke it again in December. We crushed it. I think we ended up close to 480 registrations last month. But hey, we're going to need some volunteers. So if you haven't scheduled volunteering into your 2024 race calendar, please do. It is imperative that everybody who's involved in trail and ultra running realize the importance of volunteering. We need you. We can't do it without you. This is going to be a big topic that I actually discuss in my State of Our Sport address coming up here in a couple weeks. I actually think that the lack in volunteerism is the single greatest threat to the sport of trail and ultramarathon running today. So I can't stress to you enough, if you have time to run, you have time to volunteer. If you have time to train, if you have time to race, you have time to volunteer. Please make a point to figure out which race you're going to volunteer at. I don't even care if it's not with us. If it's with somebody else, great. Go help them. We all need help. We can't do it without you. So please do sign up to volunteer. And then I'm going to say goodnight to my kids here. We got these little lights now. I can send the color over to them to say goodnight. So they're out in New Hampshire going to bed. There we go. My oldest is... Okay. Sorry. Where am I at? Trail work. Here you go. Speaking of volunteering, we're going to talk a lot about trail work this evening. Some upcoming projects that we have. We have a lot to do, actually. And I'm super excited about the things that we have going on and that we're going to be doing on the trail work front here at the Human Potential Running Series. These are our 2024 dates. That's May 25th. I think that's Memorial Day weekend. Yeah, good point, Allie. If you have a big race, volunteer during your taper to avoid the taper crazies. Dude, that's smart. June 29th, July 14th. That's the Sunday of Silverheels weekend. And then we have a trail work weekend. We're actually going to make a camp out of this. August 30th, 31st, and September 1st. That's Labor Day weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of Labor Day weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday of Labor Day weekend, we will have trail work. And we're going to camp out Friday night, Saturday night, and if anybody wants to, Sunday night as well. So it's going to be a community event. Anybody can come and join us, whether they're doing trail work or not. However, the hope is that most of you will be doing some trail work with us on any number of those days, 1, 2, or 3 days on that weekend. And I'm going to explain the project we're probably going to be working on that weekend. It's going to look a lot like what you see in that picture, actually. So stay tuned, because I'm going to be talking about that project tonight. I'm super excited about it. It has huge implications for the Silverheels trail runs. And that's where probably most of our work is going to be this year. That May 25th date is at Indian Creek. So we'll be local here in the Denver Metro. If anybody needs a trail work day for race requirement, that's close to home. It's right there. Let's go. May 25th, Indian Creek Campground. We'll be out on the trails there at Indian Creek, getting some work started. And yeah, here's the rest of the summer. Scott, come on, man. I used to plan my entire trail and ultra schedule for the next year in like November. All right. That's what I got. Let's head to the water cooler. That's some really French, like a bakery, French cafe type music. I don't know why I chose that. Maybe it's because we're actually going to the Olympics. Emily and I taking my oldest kiddo to the Olympics in July. We're going out to France to see rugby and soccer. Pretty excited. I've never been to the Olympics. We are not going to talk about UTMB, Joe, but thank you for the suggestion. We're going to start tonight talking about this. This is Fix CRUS. What the hell is CRUS? CRUS is the Colorado Recreational Use Statute. And rather than me trying to explain to you what the heck that is, I'm going to play a video for you, and the video is going to explain it to you for me. So, here's the Fix CRUS website. It is fixcrus.org. And you can find out all about it. I'm going to play, not this video, but I'm going to play a different video for you. It's about 5 minutes long. But this is about land protection for private landowners. And the first thing I want to highlight to you all is we are a member of this coalition. There's our logo right there. We're actually on the executive committee. So I sit on the executive committee of Fix CRUS. And I have since, I believe, November. About November. And to that point, I reached out to... I know that Fix CRUS has reached out to the Leadville Trail 100 and asked them to come on board and help. They did not. And I emailed NAR runners. I emailed the race directors of Tempest Adventures. That's Mesa's Hideout, Creed 100. I reached out to Grand Mesa. I reached out to Jordan Ricks over at Revenant. I reached out to Mad Moose. There's at least 5 other race directors that I reached out to asking for them to come on board and help with this. And they all did not. I am the only representative of the trail running community in the entire state of Colorado a part of this Fix CRUS program. And in this video, you're gonna find out why this is so important and why I'm so disappointed that these other race directors didn't join us. So let's get to the video though, and hopefully you'll learn a little more about Fix CRUS and what it is.
I'm John Reiber.
That's not me, I swear.
Several mining claims up in this area. Some of the mining claims include Mount Democrat, Mount Lincoln, and Mount Ross. The primary reason for closing access to the private properties that are along the Calibron Loop is based on liability. It's based on the concern that a landowner could possibly be sued if someone were to be hurt on their property. And so it puts like the onus on a landowner to try to educate people, but there are so many folks that come up, it's almost impossible. So we work with the Colorado Mountain Club and several others, the Colorado 14ers Initiative, trying to educate people.
Outdoor recreation is central to Colorado's economy. It contributes over $9.5 billion to our GDP and contributes over 120,000 jobs directly here in Colorado. When you think about the areas that are impacted by this closure, Lincoln and Democrat, they're climbed by over 30,000 people a year. And that tourism revenue generates about $5 million annually for the town of Alma. And Alma itself only has 300 people, so that is the economy of Alma.
And so for a lot of these little communities, those 2-3 months in the summer where their 14ers are available, that's their lifeblood. That's when their restaurants are full. That's if they have a hotel. That's when their hotel gets full. It is a huge economic drive.
So the Colorado Recreational Use Statute protects landowners who provide free access to their land, and it gives them liability protection. And we want to make sure that these landowners are protected in order to open that access, because so much of Colorado is privately held land.
There is the Nelson case. This was at the Air Force Academy, which is land owned by the federal government, but the Air Force Academy lets people go on portions of their property for free. So the Colorado Recreational Use Statute. There was a person who was biking, and the Air Force Academy was aware a few weeks prior that there was a sinkhole on the path. The cyclist hits the sinkhole and sadly was severely injured. Cyclist and his lawyers sued the Air Force Academy, and the Air Force Academy tried to use the Recreational Use Statute to defend the case. And the court looked at that language that said willful or malicious. Oh, willful or malicious. That doesn't mean you have to be willful and malicious, just one or the other. So all of a sudden, all these landowners throughout the state of Colorado who thought they had this great protection from the Recreational Use Statute, all of a sudden became terrified because of this one court decision. Just over $7 million was what the judge awarded to Mr. Nelson. And while, of course, the United States government has $7 million to pay, these private landowners do not have $7 million to pay.
That was actually the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. It just became too much to say that, okay, I am actually protected by the CRUS. I don't believe that any longer, and I don't believe other landowners believe that. If we can get the law changed, then maybe that dynamic changes, and then people will be allowed. But until that time, without the liability waiver, and then if you look at the infrastructure that it takes to even do a liability waiver, and it's asking a lot for a landowner to even do that. It's maybe much easier to just say it's no trespassing.
We're not talking just about 14ers here. We're talking about access for rock climbing, access for hunting and fishing and kayaking and all sorts of activities.
This is important to all sorts of recreational users. And it was really the landowner who was putting forward talking about the individual liability as opposed to the harm that it causes the individual recreationist. So what we've done as the Fix CRUS Coalition is bring in a lot of large national, statewide recreation groups to kind of bring that voice of recreation forward. So I'm an outdoor user and I do inherently dangerous things. I rock climb, I whitewater raft, I get out into the mountains, I go into areas where there's no cell phone reception, where trails are not maintained. And all of this is dependent on something that I consider personal responsibility. It's my responsibility to take care of myself, and it's my responsibility to make sure that my team members and whoever's going out there with me is prepared and ready to go out. I see a path forward on this, and people are scared. They are closing their land, and that is not the intention of the law. The intention of the law is to encourage people to open their access for free for people to use their land.
We need the recreation community to come together right now to call your state senator and representative and tell them that recreational access is important to you and that you want the Colorado Recreational Use Statute strengthened. Follow this effort at fixcrus.org.
All right. I hope that gave you guys a little bit of a look see at what Fix CRUS is and why it's important. So again, long and short of it is there was a mountain biker out on the Air Force Academy land, which is just in between like Monument and Colorado Springs. And the mountain biker hit a massive pothole, like a sinkhole on the trail, and went ass over tea kettle, and has suffered a traumatic brain injury and has had a number of surgeries. Life has changed for that individual forever. And the big thing is that the Air Force Academy knew that the hole was there, and they didn't do anything about it. They didn't fix the hole. They didn't sign the hole. They didn't put a cone out or tape out or anything like that. And so that is why they lost the lawsuit, and it went through the appellate courts, and the U.S. government lost. And so, as you saw there, the mountain biker received a $7.3 million settlement. Now, $7.3 million is vastly different for a private landowner, say a cattle rancher here in the state of Colorado, than it is for the federal government. And so when this individual won that ruling and then continued to win through the appellate courts, that is when all of these 14ers that are privately owned, there's only like 5 of them that are privately owned, the summit areas, began to close. And they began to close because the landowners do not want to shoulder that level of liability. And can you blame them? I do not. I completely understand where folks like Mr. John Reiber are actually coming from. Now, you may have heard that the DeCalibron Loop was closed, and that is Mr. Reiber's area. That is where he owns land, and he is the individual who closed the DeCalibron Loop, which is Democrat, Lincoln, Cameron, and Bross up there in Alma, to access. Now, it's since been reopened. It got reopened late in the summer this year. He put up a new sign with a QR code on it, and you were supposed to scan the QR code and sign the waiver releasing him from risk and liability, and then off you go. You could climb the DeCalibron Loop. Now, even though he put that sign up, hikers, trail runners, whoever, continued to access his land without signing that waiver. And without signing that waiver, that meant that those people were trespassing. So there's a huge issue with this. One of the other huge issues is a website like 14ers.com. If you go to 14ers.com, you can actually find out every route that folks typically choose to ascend and descend all of the state's 14ers on it. And a lot of those routes on 14ers.com do in fact traverse private land parcels. And the Fix CRUS group, myself and a few others, have repeatedly asked the owner of 14ers.com to please remove that information from the site because of the delicate nature of what we're trying to navigate right now. And he absolutely refuses. And his reason for not taking it down is, well, people have used those routes for 35 years. So, and to me, that's not a valid reason to leave that information up when we're trying to navigate this very sticky situation. Now, for race directors like myself, it's important for you to know, like here at HPRS, the entirety of the bingo trail runs in November takes place on private land. The Sangre de Cristo Trail Festival, our start-finish area, the campground where we all stay for a week, is a private ranch. And we have a number of private parcels that we will pass through during the Silverheels trail runs, and that we formerly crossed through during the South Park trail runs. So the reason why I reached out to my fellow race directors here in Colorado to ask for their help is because of the sheer number of trail races here in the state that do cross over and utilize private lands as a part of their route. Leadville is actually one of those races. If you didn't know, the power line section of the Leadville Trail 100 is mostly private. And they ran into an issue with this recreational use statute in 2023. Very few people know about. That the private landowner on the power line almost completely shut down the Leadville Trail 100 for liability reasons. And so Lifetime had to really work to figure out a path forward with that private landowner to put him at ease and allow the event to continue through his property, just kind of alleviating his fears of being sued. And so it is a very real issue, and that is why I got involved, and I decided that it was prudent and necessary of me to volunteer as much of my time as I possibly could to Fix CRUS, and found myself on the executive committee, which means that for the last, 4 or 5 months, I've been involved with actually rewriting the legislative bill for the state of Colorado Congress and Senate, and that's where this bill is about to head. We're actually very close. We have rewritten the Colorado Recreational Use Statute. We have edited it to make sure that private landowners are indeed protected from recreational users who are on their land. What's going to end up happening is if a landowner has a path, trail, road, etc., that traverses their land and the public does access it, or they want to allow the public to access it, they're going to have to put a sign up at the main point of entry on both sides of the property. That basically is your waiver, and you don't need to sign it because the landowner is just putting it out there that you cross here at your own risk type of a thing, right? I've learned a lot about, this goes back to like Schoolhouse Rock and learning how a bill is written and the very many drafts that it goes through and who else is involved. If I can go back to the Fix CRUS website again, this is pretty typical when you start getting into things like this. The number of organizations that are involved with this, hunting and fishing, backcountry hunters and anglers, Colorado Mountain Club, 14ers Initiative, the Next Summit, Virtual Sherpa, Energy People, the Farm Bureau, the Conservation Alliance, Alma, Towns, Counties, Ouray Ice Park, Chambers of Commerce, Colorado Outward Bound, the Conservation Fund. I mean, there's a lot of people here that are involved. And the reason why we bring all of these stakeholders, these are called stakeholders, and we bring all of these stakeholders to the table so that everybody can have a say. Everybody has a voice in how we're molding this bill to be more fair to recreationists and to private landowners. And so for me, the goal for me was, I'm going to do the work that I can to help protect access to private lands for races like ours. And that includes Leadville. It includes Run Rabbit Run. It includes any trail race in the state of Colorado that crosses any parcel of private land. I'm doing my part to make sure that we can continue to do that. And it does anger me quite a bit that not a single one of these other race directors signed on or came to help. It boggles my mind. But I'm not surprised either. I'm just throwing that out there for shits and giggles. So there's this association. It's called the Colorado Trial Lawyers Association. And there's currently some back and forth on the language in the bill. We've almost gotten to a place where the bill is written in a way that all parties agree. It would be a true bipartisan bill that we're hoping will actually hit the floor of the House here in the state of Colorado before the end of this month and be voted on, and we could have this wrapped up by mid-February. And the new Colorado Recreational Use Statute will become law probably on July 1st. and all of our private landowners will be protected, and we can all proceed forward climbing 14ers again, hopefully doing peaks like Culebra without having to pay a ridiculous $150 fee to the private landowner to pass through, but you never know. And, I throw out there, I know a lot of people, you see somebody, they own a massive ranch and they own parcels on top of a mountain and you think they're loaded, right? That is not always the case. You have to consider that for many of those folks, they got that parcel of land, they inherited it from an ancestor, or they purchased it for peanuts on the dollar back in the day when nobody wanted that stuff. And even today, if you really got onto Zillow and see how much some of these parcels actually are going for, they don't include mining rights in a lot of times. Sometimes they do, but it's these people are not millionaires. So let's not be throwing out there, oh, well, they're the rich, eat the rich, right? This isn't one of those situations. Even our rancher friends down in the Sangra, they're not rolling in it. We actually help them out financially quite a bit by having our race there. So there's that give and take. There's that relationship that we're trying to have with private landowners where we're supporting them as a thank you for supporting us. And so for me, the logical next step was to get involved with this work. And I wanted to introduce that to you because it's really important. So if you want to check it out, it is fixcrus.org, FIXCRUS.org. Again, here's the website. If you want to take action, and I'm going to recommend that you guys will, once the bill's about ready to go to the floor, I'm going to probably put this out in an email. Definitely I'm going to have this on our social media, but you can go and on the right-hand side of this page, you just enter in your information here on the right and then send the message, and it will automatically send it to your state congressperson and state senator based on your zip code. So super easy to do. So I highly recommend you guys check that out. Educate yourselves. Figure out what all is going on here. Would be super appreciated. I'm going to move on to the next group that I help with. This is the Coalition for Outdoor Access. Some of you may have heard me talk about them before. Really cool group. I enjoy working with this one. I think we meet every 2 weeks. No, it's once a month. Fix CRUS is every 2 weeks. This one's once a month. But this is the Coalition for Outdoor Access. And COA advocates for laws and policies that support and encourage guided outdoor recreation and education activities on public lands and waters. The mission of COA is to increase access to public lands for guided outdoor recreation and education activities. The goals of COA are to increase access to public lands for guided outdoor recreation and education activities by improving the recreational permitting systems of the federal land management agencies in a way that meets the needs of all stakeholders. It also seeks to bring together the stakeholder community to work together to improve the recreation permitting systems of the land management agencies. And the way that COA plans to go about doing this is to develop and advocate for legislative and administrative policies that improve the permitting systems of the land management agencies for all stakeholders. Develop relationships with federal land managers that allow for transparency and mutual education. Look for opportunities to support land managers in their work, and engage with and communicate with stakeholders who have an interest in the permitting systems of the land management agencies. But the big thing, so with COA, I am a member of the policy committee. I'm not a member of their steering committee. I'm on the policy committee, which means that after their steering committee figures out the real, this would probably be the main pizza. I see you guys are talking about pizza here. So the steering committee works on the main pizza, and the policy committee comes in and we decide what toppings go on it. Okay. So we're figuring out what toppings are going on and which ones are coming off. But, so we have been doing work on this legislative act called the SOAR Act. I'm going to put this up on the screen for you. the SOAR Act. SOAR stands for Simplifying Outdoor Access for Recreation. And you can read it there on the screen, but I'm going to read it along with you. Organized groups like outfitters, guides, outdoor education organizations, colleges, university programs, and volunteer-based clubs and races are required to have a permit to take people to national parks, national forests, and other federal lands for things like hiking, climbing, and water sports. These permits have different names depending on the agency, but are generally referred to as outfitter guide permits. Ours are called special event permits. The permitting process used by the agencies to issue outfitter guide permits is outdated, overly complex, and time-intensive. Yes, all of the above. I'm about to get going on this permitting for the year, and I'm dreading it. I mean, it really is. It's outdated, overly complex, and time-intensive. It'll take me a whole week, 40 hours, to get all of our permit applications in for the whole year. As a result, federal land management agencies are often unable to issue permits for guided outdoor recreation activities, even when the activities are within carrying capacity limits already established for the landscape. The unintended consequence is fewer people get to enjoy outdoor recreation activities. Local economies don't receive the benefit of outdoor recreation visits, and there are fewer advocates for the preservation of public lands. Here are the things that the SOAR Act would do. And again, this is at accesstheoutdoors.com. Accesstheoutdoors.com. So this is actually pretty important work as well. On this front, I have been reading and helping to edit federal legislation. So this is like a bill that is before the United States Congress and the United States. There's another one called another bill that's a companion bill that has been brought forth before the United States Senate. And I've been helping to really write, rewrite, edit, etc., the language that's in these congressional bills in the hopes that we can get them passed. And I kind of want to talk to you. I'll just talk to you one-on-one here about why this work is important. So, as it says, like the permitting process is painful. I have a deadline right now. So March 15th is the deadline that I have to submit all of our permits on U.S. Forest Service lands for 2024. Now, I know some of you out there are like, but John, you've already opened registration. You mean to tell me you don't have permits? Yeah, I'm telling you right now, there is not a race in this country that has a permit in hand on this day. That's not it. We are all permitless. I will tell you that I did not receive my approved and signed permit for the Indian Creek trail runs in 2023 until 2 weeks before the race. That's when I got my permit. And I submitted my permit, my operating plans and permit applications for last year in February. So even though I'm putting my applications in February, I don't hear boo until we're like starting to sweat bullets here. Like, am I going to get a permit or what? And that's madness. And it's not just us. It's everybody. It's Outward Bound. It's outfitters, guides, NOLs, Outward Bound, anybody who's people who are rafting, the Arkansas River, people who are fishing. It doesn't, like, all of us. We submit all of these applications and we do it according to the timeline that the federal government says that we need to provide them in, and then we wait and we receive nothing. We don't hear anything. So the way that the law is written is they're supposed to tell me within 90 days they're supposed to tell me within 60 days that they received my application and they consider it a complete and full application. I don't know what that is or why that happened. Is this what the hell is that? I don't even know what that is or where it came from. Technical difficulties of the next. Can I get two? Who has two thumbs? No, it only wants one. It's not doing it now. What is happening? Sorry. That surprised me. Anyway, the process doesn't work like it's supposed to. They're supposed to tell me after 60 days that they got my stuff, and then 60 days after that, they're supposed to give me my permit. So the timeline is supposed to be 120 days. But the thing is that the Forest Service is so understaffed and so underfunded that they can't keep up with that demand. So it takes them, and the system is so archaic that they're working with. It's like trying to issue permits in DOS instead of a 2 gigabyte internet. Instead of using 2 gigabyte internet connection, they're using dial-up. Like, that's what's going on. And so the SOAR Act is a bill that I have really helped to get through to the finish line so we can get it to the floor of the U.S. Congress and get it voted on. It's been delayed a couple times now, but we're still waiting and we're still hopeful. And if this bill passes, then the permitting process for all of these races and all of these outfitters will be brought into present day 2024 2 gig internet speed, hopefully streamlined, efficient, makes sense, and we can get some answers and we know what's going on. And it's easier not only for us, but for our partners with the federal government. I mean, I'm telling you all these things about what it's like, and it's not their fault. It's just, that's the way it is. And so because it's the federal government, though, you actually need to poke them and you need to create things to get things to move forward, to get things to change. And so COA, we're saying we need to change. It's time to change this. We got to update all of this. Let's do it. So I've been involved in COA here for, I feel like almost 2 years. I've been working on helping edit this bill and speaking up and speaking out about issues that are important to trail races, for the business of trail running. And I think that the big thing here is a couple months ago, actually it was probably midsummer, it is through the SOAR Act and it's through this work that we've been doing that I found out about the U.S. Forest Service new cost recovery program, or their idea for permits. And if you miss that memo, basically what the Forest Service is saying is, hey, yeah, we recognize we need to streamline things and we got to do some work here, but we have no money to do it. And so in order to get that money, we're going to charge 400% more for permits. And so basically, who's going to pay for that? The race director, right? I'm going to pay for that. I'm going to pay 400% more for my permit. But how am I going to get the money? You. That's right. So this summer, I learned that permitting for events like ours could increase 400% if the Forest Service has its way. To me, that's unreasonable. It's unreasonable to just jack something 400%. I mean, if we want to go in increments and handle it that way, I mean, I could see that. I have other ideas, and I've aired those other ideas. For me, it sounds like they're trying to cull the herd a little bit. Perhaps there's too many people asking for permits, and if we jack up the price, a lot of these people are going to go away. A race series like HPRS is going to do just fine paying 400% more for our permits. I recognize I'll have to raise my fees. I'll have to raise my registration fees to recover that cost on my end, but I'm better equipped to handle that because I have multiple races than, say, somebody that is starting a race for the first time and they only have 30 runners. So those races that only have 30 runners, they are not going to be able to handle that. The out-of-the-gate price tag for even talking to a ranger about getting a permit for a race is going to start at $1,500. I don't pay that for a permit at all right now. I think like the most expensive permit that I have for the Forest Service, it ends up being around $600. So can you imagine if somebody with 30 runners in a race right out of the gate finding out to get the permit, they got to pay $1,500? Like, that race isn't going to happen because that race director is going to learn real quick that just getting started, they're going to be in the red. And the likelihood of them not being in the red is very small. So I hopped on to COA, and I've been helping to again, edit these bills and do our due diligence to get them passed forward. And also definitely being the bull in the china shop with our friends at Runners for Public Lands to fight the new Forest Service cost recovery proposal. I've asked all of you to write in comments earlier in the summer in your opposition of it. And we can do that responsibly, right? We can write letters respectfully explaining why it's a bad idea without calling the government names or using, bureaucratic bullshit, red tape, blah. We don't need to use all those words. I found that if we can come from a place of understanding, like, why is it that the Forest Service wants a new cost recovery procedure? I understand why. How can we fix that instead? So for me, it's, well, if you guys are overwhelmed, there's just too many permit applications and you're trying to cull the herd, there are other things you can do, like require that any race director that comes up to you looking for a permit, there it is again, any race director that comes up looking for a permit would be required to be a certified wilderness first responder. They could also require race directors to be certified professional race directors through a group like RRCA. And I think both of these certifications, though it would be a pain in the ass for somebody that wants to be a race director, it's actually inherently better for our sport. And it's better for our sport because it would mean that you would have peace of mind that the race director who's in charge of the race that you're running at has done their homework to manage the risks associated with having you at that event. As I've told you before, right now, your grandma Gertrude could get a permit and could put on a race right now. She doesn't need to have any professional experience or certifications or anybody could get a permit. And as long as you're checking off boxes, the check boxes that the Forest Service has, they're going to give it to you. So for me, it's, instead of charging us more money, how about we put the onus on race directors to also manage the risk, but also manage the liability of the federal government through our events to ensure that, actually this event is in good hands. We're going to do right by the land manager. We're going to do right by the participant and by the resource. And I think that's a way that they could weed out some of these applications that are coming in. And I know for a fact that that idea is not going to be popular with a lot of people. And it may be a form of gatekeeping. But for me, it's no nonsense. Let's make sure the people that are putting on races know what they're doing. Not just for the runner, for safety of others, but for the landowners and for the habitat, for the resource. So that's something I've suggested. It's not written in the bill. It was actually denied, as somebody else suggested it from the climbing world, rock climbers. They suggested that if you're going to receive a rock climbing permit, that everybody who applies for a rock permit needs to be AMGA certified, which is the American Mountain Guides Association. So I'm not the only person in industries that is saying, hey, why don't we just make sure that the people getting permits are qualified people? So throwing that out there, but that is the work that I do on COA. And now we're going to move on to the fun stuff. This pertains more directly to you all. And it involves Outside 285. I have been a steering committee member on the Outside 285 group since 2017. So it's been almost 7 years. I was involved with Outside 285 before it was even called Outside 285. It was just a group of stakeholders who went out for a beer to talk about Indian Creek. And we're going to talk about Indian Creek first, actually, during our discussion here tonight. I'm excited to tell you guys about some new trails, some trail realignments, and things that are going to be happening at the Indian Creek area. It will have an impact on our races in the future. Primarily in updated routes of the Indian Creek trail runs and potentially newer distances at Indian Creek as well. Pretty excited about them. So Outside 285, there's a website, outside285.com. You can learn about the master plan. I am in both of these working groups. There's an Indian Creek working group and a South Park working group. There's a ton of information on here. Here, let me get rid of this. Here's the master plan published in October 2021. And this is a very in-depth explanation of the work that we have all done here in Outside 285. And it talks about the population of Denver, percentage of increase in our population, how that's affecting existing trails and trailheads, and also how it affects the habitat. So Outside 285, we work in an area that basically starts in Morrison and went all the way up 285 to Kenosha Pass. And then on the south side, the boundary was the Lost Creek Wilderness area, but we also included Indian Creek. And to the north, it was like Alderfer Three Sisters, Genesee, Evergreen, up through the Mount Evans, Mount Blue Sky Wilderness area. So if you could imagine that big area up and down 285, we looked at every trail, every trailhead, connectivity, lack of connectivity, but also we did a deep dive into habitat analysis for the area. And there's a number of improvements that are occurring in the area, both in Jefferson County open space and on U.S. Forest Service lands. Improvements to trailheads and trail connectivity, too numerous for me to talk to you about all of them here. But it's pretty extensive. It's a huge area. And I'll show you here. Here's a map of the area that I'm talking about. So this is the Outside 285 study area. Okay. And then if I move down, let me see if I can find some other maps here. Okay. Here's the maps talking about habitat areas. This is existing water riparian interface. That's just talking about all the creeks, lakes, rivers, all that stuff in the area. And then we had to come up with like a game plan, right? The things that we're going to do. So let me pull this one up. Okay. So here's Indian Creek. I'm going to turn my painter tool on as well. How about a different color? Let's use the purple. That works. Okay. So here's Indian Creek Campground on your map down there on the bottom. And here is where we have the Indian Creek Trail runs every October for the last 10 years. First things, big parking lot here. There's been discussion on Outside 285 in expanding this parking lot. And that conversation is going to continue to make the trailhead parking lot at Indian Creek even bigger. You may also notice here on the screen this red line. That is actually a new trail. That'll be a new single track trail that takes you from the pit toilet in the main campground down past the equestrian loop. The equestrian campground without having to be on the road. So you'll be on single track instead of the driveway down to the campground. There's also talk about this is a parking lot that's on the work road. And there's talk about expanding that parking lot. There's also a parking lot here. This is on the side of Highway 67. Eventually, there will be a trailhead there. And then this yellow line is a brand new trail that is going to be hiker only. That will bring you up to the Ringtail Trail. So if you've run Indian Creek 50s before, let's say you're in the 15 mile or the 55K, this is your first loop here. And so, and you guys head off that way. But this trail, this is a proposed trail right in here that would connect into this new trailhead parking lot. And these new trailheads are to ease overflow and popularity of the main trailhead over there at the campground. Other things that they're talking about coming online, there's another parking lot here. This is outside Roxborough State Park. It's actually on the main road heading into Roxborough. Currently, you cannot ride a mountain bike in Roxborough State Park, but this new connector trail would connect out to Swallowtail, I believe that's called, and it allows mountain bikers to access Indian Creek from the valley, or basically from the downhill side of the Indian Creek area. You're going to be able to come into Indian Creek from the Roxborough State Park area. So in the future, there'll be a new trailhead, and then this trail for mountain bikers that allows them to access Indian Creek from Roxborough instead of people having to always come up to Indian Creek to access it, or up and through Waterton Canyon. There's been a lot of discussion about Waterton Canyon, which is over here. And that discussion has focused around moving the Colorado Trail out of Waterton Canyon. This green line that you see is the Colorado Trail. And it, there's two different routes here, but it right now it ends heading out Waterton Canyon. And as you know, Waterton Canyon gets closed an awful lot by Denver Water for any number of reasons. So there's been some discussion about terminating the Colorado Trail at Indian Creek Campground. The problem is there's a lot of purists out there who just aren't willing to part with the idea of it finishing in Waterton Canyon yet. But I think over time, that's going to happen. There's another trail here, brand new trail connecting Dump Road with Indian Creek Campground. I want to talk about these trails here in the middle that have these X's on them. So you can see all these little X's on this trail. So these are trails that are there. They're in various levels of disarray. These trails were created by horseback riders 50 years ago. They are unofficial system trails. That's what the Forest Service refers to them. They are unofficial system trails. They're illegal. They are social trails. Both of these trails, there's one here and there's another one here, and it continues this way. But these trails are actually in a riparian area. They're in a creek bed. And the problem is, in both of these creek beds, there are two animals. One is a jumping mouse, and the other is Rocky Mountain spotted owl. And their habitat is endangered. And so we in Outside 285 decided we need to do more to help the spotted owl. We need to do more to help the spotted mouse, or the jumping mouse. So we're going to close these trails. So these trails are actually going away. They're going to be completely decommissioned, destroyed. You'll never be able to use them again. And instead, these other red lines that you see, these are brand new trails that are going to go in at Indian Creek. This one that I just drew on right here is part of the Niwat's course. That's actually known as the Bermuda Triangle. There's a huge iron deposit on this ridgeline that makes your compass ineffective. Your needle will just spin up there. It's pretty cool. But anyway, this end of the trail over here is where the power line is. If you come up from Rampart Aid Station during Indian Creek 50s, you hit the power line and then you're on the dump road. So this trail actually starts there at the power line, and it'll head down here to the Stevens Gulch Trail. Mostly ridgeline. So instead of being in a watershed or down in a creek bed, you're now going to be up high on a ridgeline. And same thing on the other side. This other trail here, this is a brand new trail connector that is going to create this loop up here. So that'll be a neat new loop at Indian Creek. But mainly, this is a ridgeline trail that's going to head down and connect back into the Bear Creek area, and obviously ultimately Lenny's Rest. There's another proposed route right here that will create a trail loop there. So as you can see, we've created a brand new master plan for Indian Creek that includes these neat shorter loops out there. So if you go to the Indian Creek campground and you want to go for a run, you don't have to go all the way down to Roxborough anymore to get some miles, and you could just do some quick little loops up here. And then, of course, now we've got these massive longer loops, but are shorter than the other loops that we've always been running. So there's a loop there. You can tie that in here. This is just going to be massive improvements to the trail experience at Indian Creek. It also means that we're going to be doing some realignments, fixing some of the you see this orange line here? That's a new single track trail that gets you off of the dump road. So if you're at Indian Creek, that dot is typically where the Rampart Aid Station is, and you guys come up the middle. You're usually on the dump road. That's what they call it. It's a fire road. They're going to build a single track trail just off to the side of that road. So now there will be less road at Indian Creek. Same thing when you come off, we call it the Red Rocket, the boner, down here around Singletail in the morning, first thing. You know what I'm talking about. If you've run Indian Creek, it's a big rock, looks like this. Okay, you know what I'm talking about, right? You take that first left and you go up that SOB of a hill. I just want to show you there's a new proposed trail that would be single track that is not on the road. It actually would go kind of to the south of the road. So tons of improvements here. They're not going to come quick. The red lines that you see on this map, those are going to be the first things that happen. Actually, the decommissioning of those black lines with the X's in them, that is the first thing that happens. So getting rid of these trails, that is number one. They're going to go away to start. Then the red trails, those are going to come in. And then the orange, and then the yellow. Okay? All told, you're probably going to see these new red trails within the next 5 years, 3 to 5 years. Everything within 10. It's going to take time. And it took us 7 years to get a new master plan for this area. So there we go. So there you go. That's the beta on Indian Creek. Now we're going to turn our attention to Silverheels. Last bit of our water cooler this evening is to talk about trails up there. This map I love. This is this is all the red lines you see are social trails. Those are illegal trails built by somebody, anybody, around Mount Silverheels up in Fairplay. In this area, just around Silverheels alone, there's over 300 miles of social roads and trails. All of them illegal. Well, some of these things have been marked as a social trail, but I know for a fact that they're not. So like this through here, like that is not a social trail. But whatever, I digress. So there's a lot going on here. I want to show you, here is a map of, this is a map that we worked with in the Outside 285 group. It is, again, the Beaver Creek, Crooked Creek, Trout Creek, Silverheels area. But this map is highlighting bighorn sheep habitat. So we can see their summer concentration area, their migration patterns, where they are in the winter, where they are in a severe winter, and their overall range to begin with. So here on the screen you can see Fairplay's down here. Okay, if I'm going to draw, you know, the Silverheels 100 or the trail runs route on this, this is what we use for those events. Okay. God, you can tell how many times I've had to draw those lines because I'm just zooming along here. But this is what we're using now. Okay. So there's the route that we use. So you can see that the Silverheels Trail Runs does indeed go through quite a bit of bighorn territory. Thankfully, the time of year that we're going through these areas, the bighorn are primarily way up high. I will highlight, here is their summer range. So that is the area that is summer range, right up in here, okay? So we just kind of hit that summer range when we head up here to the mine, right? We just kind of tickle it. I have seen sheep up there during when we've been doing trail marking some years. I've seen bighorns up in this area. So yeah, it makes total sense, right? Okay, so let me go back to this other map for you. So we have all these trails, and on this map, I can tell you, we used to use this for Silverheels. Actually, I want to do this. This we've used for Silverheels, and it is now closed. We can't use it anymore. Also, we used to come down this road, and there's a lot of private landowners that don't want anybody to go down that road. Every year that we've used up in here, we've had our course markings taken down because people don't want us going through there. So this is kind of some of the reasons why we've done some course reroutes for the Silverheels Trail Runs. But the big thing that I want to highlight is that folks who've done Silverheels, this is where Trout Creek Pass is. Trout Creek Pass is that really steep climb that you got to do heading over towards Terrial. This is where the Terrial aid station is. This is the pass you have to go up and over to get there, right? Okay, so this whole road is being closed, all of it. So in the past, we've had right there where the purple dot is, that's where the Trout Creek aid station is usually at. This other one is where Terrial is usually at. Como's over here. Jungle Hill is here. All right. So if you guys know the course, you've got your bearings now. All right. So this road that we used to do heading out to towards Terrial is being decommissioned. It's being closed by the U.S. Forest Service. Now we are going to build. When I say we, I mean HPRS. We're actually going to help build a brand new trail, single track trail that is going to come around this way. Excuse me. So that green line is going to be a single track trail that replaces Trout Creek Road. We are also going to help build a trail reroute here in the Jungle Hill area. And that trail is actually going to continue all the way up to the top of Mount Silverheels. It will be the first time that there is an official trail to the top of Mount Silverheels. Now, why are we doing that? Again, the bighorn are a big consideration. Here's Hoosier Pass. A lot of folks will hike up to the top of Mount Silverheels in this direction. There are also a lot of folks that come up Silverheels in this direction. And there are folks that come up Silverheels from this direction. So there's 3 different directions that people are ascending Mount Silverheels. And the problem is, it's affecting the bighorn sheep herd. They've discovered that over 70 bighorn sheep have left the herd up there. They don't know where they went. They don't know if they died or if they just ran away or what the story is. We just know that because so many people are coming from so many different directions to get to the top of Mount Silverheels, it has greatly affected the sheep habitat. And so we're going to help out by saying, okay, from now on, if you want to hike Silverheels, you can only take the official trail, and that official trail is going to be open and closed on a seasonal basis based on where the sheep need to roam. And then again, we're going to build this brand new trail that comes around to Jungle Hill, and this is all getting closed. So if I can take another moment here, and I want to show you all what this looks like here. There's a couple other things I wanted to point out. So this is Boreas Pass. You can see that. We used to use Gold Dust Aid Station was right here. And then the Silverheels 100 used to climb up this way and come up here onto Red Peak. Some of you may remember that from years and years ago. But the Forest Service on the South Park side closed this trail. They closed it. And the Forest Service on this side, that's the White River National Forest, Dillon Ranger District, they want there to be a connector back open. So what's going to happen is we are going to help build a new single-track trail that goes up and over this Boreas Mountain and connects into here. And that will be the connector via the Gold Dust Trail. So we're going to help connect these two districts on this ridge by building a trail up here. Another place we're going to build a trail is here. This is called Black Powder Pass. And we're going to build a trail connector down here to French Creek Trail. French Pass. This is the new Silverheels route. Those lines you see on this, on here, the new Silverheels comes up this way. But we want to build this connector for sure, so that we don't necessarily have to go down here into Summit County stuff. So we're going to build a trail here. We're going to build a trail here. We're going to build a trail here. And we're going to build one here. And this is being closed. This is being closed. This is being closed. But we're going to build a trail through there as a reroute to get out of the creek bed. And then this is being closed as well. That's why we can't use that anymore. So there you go. Like, that's all the beta on the Silverheels area, and the trail work that we're going to be doing this year is primarily going to be focusing on this brand new trail. This is going to be the heart and soul of our trail work this year, is this new connector trail. We're going to be working with wilderness restoration volunteers on this and the United States Forest Service. All of our trail work days in June, July, August, and into September, including our big camp out, is going to be on this trail. So this is where we're going to be. If you want to join us for a trail work day in the new year, again, here are our trail work dates. And again, I want to say all of these are going to be on that trail right there. We're going to need your help. We would love your help. Friends, I want to impress upon you again that use of these trails for events like ours, I've said it 1,000 times, I'll say it again, it is a privilege and not a right. And I want to also let you know that probably the number one reason why we got permits for Latino Ultra Nature Adventure in Boulder this past October, and probably one of the major reasons why we're going to get this new permit for the Silverheels trail runs for this year and beyond, is because of all of this volunteer work that I'm doing on Fix CRUS and COA and Outside 285 and the trail work that we do in Fair Play. Some of you could say, well, that's kind of selfish in nature, John, right? You're doing all of this work to get the returns in your permits. No. It is easy to see it that way. But when I first asked for permits from the Forest Service up there in 2014, I made it very clear specifically that, hey, we want to adopt trail up here. And we've adopted about 11 miles of U.S. Forest Service trail up in Fair Play. And we want to adopt that trail so we can take care of it as a way to give back, because we do view use of these trails as a privilege and not a right. That's where it started. And yeah, over the years, I've picked up some responsibilities, and I'm advocating in as many ways as I possibly can to make the sport better for us, to make sure that we continue to have great and amazing places to recreate, so that we can play through, so that private landowners will trust us, so that the federal government will be willing to work with us, so that we can make their lives easier, so that it makes our lives easier. It's also a way so that we can kind of manage entry fees. Whew, there's a lot that goes into it. But I'll be honest again, in all of these committees that I'm on, I'm the only trail running representative. The one. I would encourage you all this year to please, if you run with other race directors at other series, please encourage them to advocate, to have a voice, to help do things that continue to move us forward, rather than also just being people that use the land for their own financial benefit. Because that is also another way we can look at it. We just put on races so that we can benefit financially from it, right? No, actually, I volunteer a pretty unusual amount of my time back into these nonprofits and these organizations. I'm working with regional and national entities to make it better because, again, it's a privilege to use the lands that we use, and I feel like I have a duty to give back. So I hope you'll join me in that giving back, and not only writing to your state legislator to help with Fix CRUS and get the new recreational use statute passed, but I also hope you'll come out and swing some hose with us and build some new single track trails so that we can use them for Silverheels, but also so that we can finish connecting Fairplay with Kenosha Pass. I think that's going to be really important for the folks of Fairplay and their local economy. If somebody could theoretically mountain bike from Kenosha Pass all the way down into the town of Fairplay, rather than them always going to Breckenridge, right? So these kind of things, they have a huge impact on these small towns like Fairplay and Alma. And it really is rewarding if we can have a hand in that and continue to do that work. So my hope this evening is that I was able to enlighten all of you with this month's water cooler. Not as fun. I know it's not as fun as the last few that we've done. I'll get back to some fun water coolers next month. But for this month, I really just wanted to go over, hey, people ask me all the time, when you're not race directing and working on your races, what are you doing? This is what I'm doing. I'm volunteering on these committees and doing what I can to help out the resource, help out the habitat, help out landowners, land managers, help out our sport. It's really important. This stuff trails don't magically appear, and they don't magically take care of themselves. And there's a lot that goes into trail building. There's a lot of that goes into trail maintenance and concepts. These trails that are proposed to be built at Indian Creek and around Mount Silverheels, they all have to go through an environmental impact study. They also have to go through a historical and cultural study. And so a historian will come in and determine if it's okay to build a trail or if we're going to disrupt some kind of historical artifacts. CPW comes in, and we talk about habitat and how these trails could either hinder or help the wildlife that relies on the habitat. There's so much that goes into it. I've learned so much about bighorn sheep I never thought I'd ever learn. Just their migration habits and how they interact with humans and how far they can see and the effects that we have even if we can't see them. It's been truly eye-opening and enlightening for me. And it's such a privilege and honor of mine to give back in these ways. And I just wish more people would, because it's so very important. So if you do anything this year to give back, please write about CRUS and please come on out and help us out with some trail work. So we can continue to spread the goodwill that we have here at Human Potential Running Series. Over the years, we've done a number of trail work days every single year since 2015. And I think right now the number is, I think we've hosted 36 trail work days all time. If the website ever loads, I can tell you. It's slow on my end because I'm using all the bandwidth. Does anybody else have anything they want to share, comments, questions, or anything? Put them in the chat now. Volunteering for trail work or volunteering at a race. It is a great way to meet other trail people, Ross. Thank you for saying that. If anybody has any questions or anything they just want to say or anything, put it in the comments here on Facebook. We're going to wrap up the show here over the next 5 minutes, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yes, to date, the Human Potential Running Series has held 32 trail work days, accounting for 2,416 volunteer hours. That's 293 comp race entries awarded for our trail work. Again, all of these trail work days for the year, you can register for them now on our website, humanpotentialrunning.com. Check it out. You want to click on the volunteer link. It's a little drop-down menu, but there's a trail work button on there. That's not what I want you to see. Oh, well. You know where to find it. Sign on up. Sign up. Sign up. Come on. We need you. Okay. Thanks for being here tonight, everybody. I see Joe, Scott, Ross, Michelle, Jane. Hi, Jane. Let's see if I could get this to happen again. I got to figure out what that is or why that's even happening, because I have no idea. Yeah. It's not. Now it never works when you want it to work. It only does it when it's a surprise. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I hope that was an enjoyable water cooler. A little more educational tonight than tomfoolery, but I just really feel this stuff's important to share. Just make sure everybody knows what we're doing, how we're contributing to the collective on the outside. It's not just race directing. Let's go run. You know, it's we all have a responsibility here, and it's a pleasure to play our part. So, thanks, Michelle. Looking forward to seeing you at a trail work day. Jane, Claire's here. Sweet. All right. Well, if there's no questions or anything, or about anything that we discussed tonight, check out all those websites. I'll try to... Yeah, there's going to be an awesome camp out. Oh, Amber, when did you volunteer at... was it 2 years ago that you volunteered at Stories? I don't think it was last year. I think it was 2 years ago. Let me put these in the discussion. If you guys want to check out these websites. Here you go. Fix CRUS. And then we did COA. Here it comes. These are, I'm putting these into the comment section if anybody wants to go fishing. And then we did what? Outside 285. I think that was it, right? CRUS, COA, Outside 285. That's not the one I want. I want this one. There it is. Boom. If you guys want to check all this out, there are the links. Outside285.com. accesstheoutdoors.com or fixcrus.org. Thanks for checking them out. Thanks for your support. We're going to turn the light off and we're going to sign off. Hey, I miss everybody. Happy New Year. Happy 2024, everybody. I hope you're all happy and healthy. I'm getting over whatever weird respiratory bug that is going around. I'm getting over it. My hair is just, it just keeps growing. I haven't gotten it cut yet, so or just keep working on this I give up look. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody at the Franklins. And then Stories. I'm excited to put on a race here in February. It'd be great. So happy New Year, everybody. For the Human Potential Running Series, I'm John Lacroix.